we're going to talk about how to build and create and manifest your dream lifestyle. Something that might seem like a pie in the sky desire right now, something that we might think, I have no idea how I could possibly make this happen. I've got family where I live. I've got a full-time job. I'm a budding entrepreneur just starting on this entrepreneurial journey, but I know I want to create my dream lifestyle, and I know that I want this freedom. And for those who are saying that, we have someone very special here with us today. Her name is Julia Baldwin Taylor. She's out of Colorado. And for those who don't know Julia yet, Julia is a creative entrepreneur, a certified transformational coach, and a manifestation expert. She loves helping entrepreneurs who are ready to level up their businesses so they can have more impact, income, and more freedom than ever, all while working less than they ever thought possible, right? Usually we hear working harder, but not today. It's quite the opposite. As a cancer survivor, Julia believes that life is about truly living and connecting with your passion and purpose and doing what truly lights you up. She teaches that work doesn't have to be hard and that running a business doesn't have to feel like a struggle. She's passionate about showing her clients how to shift their thoughts, emotions, and beliefs so that they can start experiencing wild success in their business and in their life. Julia, I'm so excited to talk to you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Wow, that was a great intro. Thank you so much. I mean, you're just a natural at speaking. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. And I am super excited to talk with you because you are somebody who's out there doing things, right? You're in Colorado now. You recently just took a trip along the East Coast, and you were able to take that trip while still growing your business and doing what it is that truly lights you up. And I think we should just jump right into that. So you're living your dream lifestyle right now. I know you've been working on this for a number of years.
Yes.
And I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to make this dream lifestyle a reality for yourself?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a process. It started in 2014 when I started my first business, and I was definitely more attached to one specific location here in Colorado. Fortunately, that location is pretty awesome. I'm based in Breckenridge, which, if you don't know, is a ski town up in the mountains. So pretty lucky there. But I wanted more. That wasn't enough. I wanted to be able to go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. So getting to that point was quite the journey, and something that happened over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of that transition from when you first, because at some point you decided, right, that you're going to go from being bound to one place to being able to live this dream lifestyle of yours. So I guess the question is, at what point did you decide that this was something that you were going to do and nothing was going to stop you from making it a reality?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. So I ran my business for about 2.5 years without any really great results. I really wasn't getting the traction that I wanted. Like, I hadn't been able to even match my salary yet. And I was kind of at the point where I was ready to give up. Like, I actually started searching for 9-to-5 jobs again. I had a history as a web designer and graphic designer. So I actually had like 12 interviews in the fall of 2016 and got a few offers. None of them quite felt right. And then in December, my mom called me up and said, they found this mass in my abdomen where, we think it might be cancer. So that started kind of the journey of the transformation for me. So that was December 2016. She was officially diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer just at the beginning of January 2017. My husband and I were actually in the Dominican Republic at the time. And right around that same time, I was filled with anxiety, of course, not really being able to enjoy this vacation. And I laid on my stomach to read my Kindle one day on the beach, and I noticed that it was just really uncomfortable. Like, I couldn't lay on my stomach. So that was kind of weird, but I was just like, whatever. And then I decided at the end of that vacation, instead of coming straight back to Colorado, I was going to actually go back to Maryland to see my mom and spend some time with her after her big surgery. And again, I was like trying to do yoga on my parents' living room floor. And I was like, something's not right here. I can't lay on my stomach. So when I got back to Colorado, I went to the doctor and she was like, yeah, you also have a mass. So we're doing a CT scan and then we're sending you to an oncologist. And a week later, I had surgery and found out that I had ovarian cancer as well.
Wow, the same kind of cancer.
Yeah, different cell types, different stages. I was very fortunate that mine was stage 1, so definitely not as advanced or scary as my mom's was.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to dive into that in a minute here, just like the emotions at the time while you're building your business, finding this news, while you're in this transition of wanting to apply and interview for more 9 to 5 jobs. And I know that you started your entrepreneurial journey in 2014, right?
Mhm.
Okay. What did that look like for you? So were you currently at a job? Were you working for a company? Were you were freelancing? I think you mentioned before.
Mhm. Yeah, so I worked for other companies until about that summer. I had been pretty miserable those last couple of years. Like things shifted, dynamics shifted in the companies, like the role shifted. It wasn't nearly as creative as it had been. I just wasn't happy. I had been kind of exploring something on the side, but then I just fortunately was able to get enough freelance work to float me and quit the job and then just go in all in on the business basically, spending about 15, 20 hours a week on freelance design work and then going all in on that business in the rest of my hours.
What were your emotions like at that time when you had your job, you left your job to do freelancing, which it's in a sense, it still is a job, right? You do get more
Mhm.
freedom, but it's you and your skills and abilities that you've honed over the years, which it is a step in the right direction. What were your emotions at that time? Because you must have been working harder at that point, right? Doing the freelancing to earn income while still wanting to build your business. The reason I ask is I know a lot of people are listening right now and they're working at a job, but they know that they either want to maybe advance, but I know a lot of people listening say, I want to operate my own business and also have this lifestyle where I can have freedom of time and location. So what did that period of time look like for you of freelancing and running your business? And how did you step fully into your business? How long did that take?
It was a busy time, it was it was exciting. It was, you know, I felt fearful at times, like can I really make this work? Anxiety, but also just like relief that okay, I'm doing it. Like I'm this is a step in the right direction. And to answer your question about how long it took, I really struggled a lot for a long time. Like I said, it was fall of 2016 when I was like on the brink of giving up. It wasn't until about end of 2017 after my cancer diagnosis that I was actually able to step into the business full time and leave all the freelance work that was really kind of draining me behind.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about that. So you said you were diagnosed at the end of 2016. That's when you found out about you and your mom.
January 2017. We were 27 days apart, both in January.
Oh my God. But just curious, like what was the conversation like between you and your mom? Was that something that was just unbelievable? Like what was that like?
You mean like when I told her about me?
Yes.
Um, so we actually, my dad and my sister and my aunt and I and my husband, we got together as a family and decided that we actually weren't going to tell her until we knew all the facts with me. So I actually went into surgery without my mom knowing. And
Wow.
that felt really scary. I was very close with her. She actually passed away this past October. But it felt so strange to keep something that scary and vulnerable away from her. But like she was so vulnerable, she was just starting chemo. We just felt like we needed to protect her until we knew everything because she was such a worrier. So I guess it was 2 days after my surgery. So it was like February 1st that we told her, and I didn't even talk to her. I was still all drugged up and everything. So I think my husband called my dad, and my dad told my mom, and then, a couple of days after that was when I finally talked to her, and she was shocked, of course, like, how the hell did this happen? I mean, it was such a bizarre coincidence. I mean, now in retrospect, I don't believe it was a coincidence, and we can talk about that if you want. But um, the one thing I do remember is just, she had been so wrapped up in her own turmoil of her own diagnosis that when she found out about me, she really just launched back into that mom role. Even though I was 36 years old, she was just like, oh my God, baby, like, how do I take care of you? What can I do? It was a really raw, vulnerable time.
Wow. Yeah, very, very raw and very bizarre of a situation. And like you just said, I also don't believe in coincidences, and I believe that it's hard to say that everything happens for a reason, because then really hard things happen, and it's hard to find a meaning for that. And we can, but it's more difficult. But what do you believe the reason for this event happening was? Like, if you don't believe it was a coincidence, then what do you believe about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that I've pondered, quite a bit over the last 4+ years. Um, I believe, at least for me personally, I don't know what it meant for my mom. She had a very different experience than I did, of course, both physically and emotionally,
Yeah.
since hers was much more traumatic than mine was. Um, I think for me, it was a wake up call. It was, a wake up call to stop working my ass off, to really focus on the things that matter to me, to, start living my life the way that I want to, and do something with more purpose, which came later, that didn't come immediately, but just do here, do what I was put here to do.
And when you made that shift of not just wanting to grind and just work hard, and I spoke with someone recently about that whole working hard mentality, and she mentioned, it was, I believe it was myself and Julia Cooley I was talking with, and she mentioned that working hard comes from our parents, and it comes from even our ancestry, like people who are 3 generations back. We took on those genes of working hard, and it reminds me of like my father, always out in the cold working hard, still to this day
Mhm.
works hard, and he instilled that in me. And it's only been like maybe the last 5 years that I've said, I've actually been able to get better results when I take more time for me to plan
Mhm.
and to focus and to practice gratitude and incorporate routines, and not necessarily just be at the grindstone all day. That transition of when you instead chose to focus on what mattered, what did you then decide mattered most to you? Because I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that experience.
Yeah, so, in those first several weeks, I was recovering from surgery, and, I basically put my business on the back burner like that. For a week or two, I just completely shut down and didn't do anything because I just wasn't able to do anything. But then when I started working again, it was really just the bare minimum. And, like, I wasn't able to travel, I just wasn't physically able to go see my parents, since that required flying, since we're 2 time zones apart. And when I did finally regain, enough physical strength, actually went out on a trip with my husband and some friends, to the Utah backcountry into Canyonlands National Park. We went on a little 4-day bike packing trip, and I wasn't anticipating that I was going to be able to bike at all. But I actually was able to hop on my husband's bike and do a pretty big chunk of that trip, like 60 miles. And
Wow.
there was something that just like woke up in me on that trip. Like there was just something where I just, all of a sudden, I just felt more alive than I ever had in my entire life. And I just felt so much gratitude. Like I don't even have words to describe just the appreciation that I felt for being spared my life. I basically had a brush with death. But fortunately, I surgery was all I needed. I didn't need any additional treatment. And I just felt so grateful to be there in this stunning, stunning natural place with people that I loved. And so that was a definite like milestone in the journey of transformation. And then, a few weeks after that, I flew to see my mom and my dad. And my dad actually had to go on a business trip, so I was alone with my mom, and I had to take her to the infusion clinic one day, and we were just sitting in there, and she was sleeping, and I was kind of just working on my laptop a little bit, like just working on a new project that I was exploring. And I was just like, you know what? Like this is what it's all about, being able to spend time with family when they're in their darkest hour, and
Yeah.
just doing, things that really matter, being with the ones that we love, having adventures. And yeah, that was just really like the defining moment where I was like, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to a job ever. I'm going to make this business work come hell or high water. I'm figuring out a way. Like life is too precious to grind away in a 9 to 5.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a big thing that's been instilled in us just through growing up and like through the education system. And our teachers are great people, 99% of them, but they were brought up in the same way where you work for 30, 40 years, you retire. And now that you're retired and have a nest egg, hopefully, maybe now you can spend that time with the people who matter most to you and take the trips and go on vacations and do all the fun things that you're talking about. But today's world is different. And I feel that things have changed more drastically in the last 20 years than they have in the last 2000 years. And we're in such an era of change and knowledge, and not even knowledge, but an era of possibility where you and I can have a conversation with each other over video, live streaming to however many people are watching and engaging. Like it's just incredible the opportunities that are available. And what comes with that is learning and practicality. And during this transition for you, because it sounds like those two experiences, the biking and the traveling to see your mom and your father, but it ended up just being your mom. It sounded like those were big turning points for you and revelations for you. And I guess the big question is, what were some practical transitions that you made, maybe in your routine or just in general, when it came to not working as hard, but maybe even working smarter and only focusing on what mattered? What practically did you do different at that moment that really skyrocketed things for you?
Mhm. So the very first step I took was outsourcing. So I have an e-commerce brand, and I design and sell products. And my very first step was to outsource all of my printing and shipping. So that really freed up a ton of time for me. I had also been working locally in a gallery, and I decided that had to be kicked to the curb as well. Like, it really wasn't a good investment in my time. Not saying that it's not right for some people, but for me, like it wasn't really producing results, and it was keeping me tied to Breckenridge, and didn't allow me to have the freedom that I really wanted. So those were the first two big practical things. And the outsourcing, I was really nervous about that because in the maker community, there's a lot of pressure that you have to have your hands touching everything, that you have to write like a handwritten note on everything, which, if you want to do that, that's awesome. But for me, that was restrictive. And, I was worried about what other people would think. I really had to do some inner shifting, some inner work to decide that was okay for me. And once I did, that's when business really started to take off, because it was so much easier. Not only did was I now free, location wise, I was also able to, that was actually a task that really drained me, like going to the post office, especially here where it's winter 6 to 8 months of the year where there's snow on the ground. Like, I hated that. So it actually, it not only freed up time and location, but it also freed up so much energy for me as well. Like, I was able to start focusing more on things that were really needle moving.
You started to focus on the things that actually produced results, is what it sounds
Exactly.
like.
Yeah. And I find that oftentimes those are very much correlated to the things that you really enjoy doing too.
Yes. And I know you work with a lot of clients, right? You work with a
Mhm.
lot of people who might be in the same situation that you were in, with all these things that they're, dipping their hands into, like going to the post office, and even like small things like mowing your own lawn. Like we just moved recently to a property that has more land. And my wife is like, well, I'll mow the lawn. And I was like, okay. I said, do you enjoy mowing the lawn? Like, is that something that brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment with your time? And she's like, well, it'd be good exercise. And I said, okay, go for it. And she did it like 3 times. And because I wasn't going to do it. And I know that sounds weird, but I just know that my time could be better used elsewhere. So she did it a few times, and she came in and she's like, please don't tell me you told me so, but I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, no problem. We'll hire somebody to come out for $40 a week. Like that $40 for the 2 hours that it takes to mow the lawn. Like, what could you be earning or doing with your time or experiencing with that 2 hours that you're now saving? And my question for you is, like, all the clients you work with who want to make these shifts too, what are the most common things that you work with people to help them kind of push off of their plate and give to somebody else to do for them? What are the most common things that you hear?
It really varies with the client, because I work both with entrepreneurs who have product-based businesses and service-based businesses. But sometimes it really is about starting small like that. Sometimes it really is about hiring somebody to mow the lawn or like clean the house, even just once a month. I mean, that's something that I've started doing, in the last couple of years. Just a year or so, is having somebody clean my house. It's not, I'm not at the point yet where it's every week, although that's definitely coming. Just, because that, we think about it just in hours, we think about it just in time, but it's all, you have to ask yourself, like, what is it taking away from your energy? Because you want
Mm,
to bring your most excited, vibrant energy to your work. You want to bring creativity to that. And if you're cleaning or mowing the lawn or shipping work or doing social media or whatever it is draining that creative energy, like that's priceless. That energy is priceless, and you can't afford to lose that.
absolutely. And I think the biggest move that I made in my own business over the last few years is when I finally decided to let things go, and I gave all of my video editing to somebody that I outsourced actually in the Philippines. His name is Errol. He's an incredible individual, right? Harder worker than most people who I'd even hire here in the United States.
Mhm.
And once he started taking these things off my plate that I didn't enjoy doing, that sapped my energy and my time, it allowed me to go from posting one video a week of content to 5 videos a
That's
week.
amazing. Yeah.
And it just freed me to do all these other things, like actually do what I enjoy doing, which is talking with experts and individuals like you about your story. It's allowed me to do all these different things. And I agree when you said there was some inner work that came along with that, like a sense of detaching from these things that we've been so used to
Yes.
doing. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask you, when you started to give these things away, what did that inner work look like for you?
That's a great question. It was, I guess, just becoming aware. That's, kind of always the first step when you want to transform something. The first step is becoming aware. So, just having the awareness that you have these stories or you have these beliefs that you have to be doing it all. Like you said, I think that comes from parental programming. It comes just from society. It comes from being an employee at a company. Like, it's just a different mindset. And, just acknowledging that you have that and that you want to change it and that it's okay to change it. That's really the first step, I think.
That's huge. Just awareness that you're doing these things, that you could be doing other things with that time and with that energy.
Mhm.
And energy seems to be a common theme in what you talk about. And I think
Mhm.
that's so important because we don't generally talk about energy very often in the entrepreneur world, in the business owner world. I work with a lot of clients myself, and a lot of them they're either overweight, or they're not, but they have no energy. Like myself, I was 60 pounds heavier 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and it just sapped all of my energy. It sapped my self-esteem. It sapped all those things. Once I was able to release that weight from my body and feel the way that I wanted to feel, it transformed everything. It transformed me in the career in the business that I was in at the time, and transitioning to my own business. And energy is huge with you. And it's just clear to see just from all your videos, which are awesome, by the way. I love your videos
Thank
because
you.
they're always in cool places. You got trees in the background. It's like Zen. It's just peaceful. And you're always in nature, and you're always doing something, whether it's biking or regardless, you're in excellent shape. And I'm sure that plays a big role in what you're able to do with your business.
Mhm.
So my question is, what correlation between physical exercise and keeping yourself in shape, how does that help you in your business? And how does that help you to create more energy?
Mhm. Yeah, so I was just, I'm not an expert on this specifically, but I was recently reading that, like, spending time moving your body, whether it's lifting weights, it's doing, Zumba, or you're outside hiking or biking or paddling or whatever, which, that's more my style, is being outside. Um, it it really releases chemicals in your brain that allow those creative juices to flow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, just like being outside and the chemicals releasing. I'm reading this book, which I think you would really enjoy. It's a giant book. So you kind of just flip, it's like an encyclopedia, and you kind of flip to the chapter that makes the most sense for you. It's called Boundless by Ben Greenfield.
Oh, yeah. I haven't read it, but I know of it.
Okay, cool. And I just read this morning, like he's like, when you wake up, the number one thing that you can do to like burn fat and just increase your energy and feel better overall is when you wake up, literally within the first hour, go outside and just take a walk in the sunlight for
Mhm.
20 minutes, even start with 10 minutes, 20 minutes, because that sun, it changes the circadian rhythm, and it helps you to burn fat for the rest of your day. It gives you more energy for the rest of your day. And it really just connects you with the earth. The earth gives off its own frequency, and it gives off its own magnetic field, just like we do. So I had to ask you that because I don't meet a lot of entrepreneurs and business people who are constantly in nature. Like a lot of my friends who I talk with every day, they're in their office space that they
Mhm.
rent out, and they're always in there. But whenever I watch anything with you, you're outside doing things. So I figured that had to have some correlation.
Well, and something I want to add to that too is being in nature, allows you to really connect to your intuition, really connect to the higher version of yourself. Like, there's actually, like, something that happens when you're outside in the fresh air that just allows you to connect to something bigger, to yourself. And for me, that's so important in creating magic in my business.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about the creating magic part. Okay. So let's say we've got a new entrepreneur or somebody who knows that they have that entrepreneurial drive. And let me ask you this first, because I'm really curious to see how you answer this. Do you believe that anybody can be an entrepreneur?
I think so. Like, I think, for some people, it's probably going to take more work than others. And by work, I don't necessarily mean like the hustle kind of work, like the doing kind of work, but like the inner transformation of shifting, our stories and our beliefs about things. Um, I think as humans, we're wired, to be entrepreneurs. I think that we are designed to be adapting all the time with our environment. Like, I think it's just in our DNA.
I love that answer. It's very optimistic, very positive. I agree with that. And a lot of people don't. Like, I ask pretty much everybody that question, and they're like, no, I don't think they can. And we dig into why. And a lot of it comes down to the drive, and you have to be self sustaining and all these things. But I believe that, just like you talk about all the time, we all want to create more impact in some shape, way, or form. And we all have these abilities and gifts. And I believe that for some people, those abilities and gifts go into creating an e-commerce brand or a physical product or whatever it might be. But for some other people, it might just be them sharing their story and their experience and doing group coaching or summits or events or even just writing a book. And in all ways, I believe that we are entrepreneurial. So I'd have to agree with you there. And I think that there's people listening right now who are at a job or they just started their entrepreneur journey and they want to go full-time entrepreneur, because for the longest time I wasn't full-time entrepreneur for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're wondering the same thing. What would you recommend to somebody who wants to take that leap to being an entrepreneur, to living this dream lifestyle, whatever that looks like for them? What would you tell them is the first step that would help them to begin that journey?
That's a great question. I think part of it is just believing in it. I mean, it sounds so simple. It might even sound cliche, but just knowing in your heart that it is coming, that it is possible for you, and just continuing to tune into that. I think another big part of it in the beginning that I didn't necessarily have, and I think was part of my struggle for a long time, was not having a clear vision of what it is that you want. And, a lot of people just focus on like, oh, I want to hit six figures, or, I want to be able to quit my job. That's part of it, but also focusing on like, what do you want your life to look like? And getting really clear on that, because when you have a clear vision for that, that's going to pull you forward. That's going to inspire you to take action that is going to push you forward, because you're going to have a really strong why behind your business.
I was just going to ask you if that vision was the same thing as having a strong why. And I completely agree. And I trained salespeople for the longest time. And we always asked, like, how much money do you want to make? What are you going to do with it? Stuff like that. But what really changed is when we started asking people, what do you want your life to look like? And in order for your life to look that way, how much money do you have to earn? Because sometimes to live your dream lifestyle, it doesn't require millions of dollars. It doesn't
Right.
even require hundreds of thousands. Like, sometimes to take that leap, like we've been talking about, you just have to outsource some of those things that are keeping you where you are, and then really determine, well, what's it going to take income wise in order for me to make this leap. And you talk a lot about manifestation, and you
Mhm.
talk a lot about the actual results driven strategy in order to bring that life into scope and into reality. What do you think is more important, and why would you say that, manifestation or the actual strategy that goes behind it?
For me, like definitely the manifestation part. So manifestation is all about aligning your energy with what it is that you want. So, you can't do that if you're telling yourself the stories that, you have to be, like I was printing and shipping my own work, or I have to do everything myself until I'm earning, a certain amount of money before I can hire some of it out. Um, just, like there's so much to just that inner awareness, and I think it's so much more important, and doing that, aligning your energy with what it is that you want, is going to inspire action. Like we talked a little bit about before, it's going to inspire you to do the things that are going to get you traction. If you're just like hung up in the day-to-day hustle, like sometimes it's so easy to get just distracted by it all, and so entrenched in it, and you can't see the forest for the trees, and you lose sight of the vision. So, you know, that's a big part of manifestation, is holding on to that vision and being connected to it, not just thinking about it, but really truly feeling it, energetically. So manifestation is my answer.
I love that, because like we can continue to do, and
Exactly.
then 2 weeks later we ask ourselves, like, these things that we're doing, what is this leading me towards? And we remember what we want in the first place, and we say, oh well, this thing that I did didn't push me in that direction. This thing didn't push me in that direction. We get very busy just being busy versus being busy making progress towards what it is we want.
Yeah, and a great example of that I see all the time with clients is social media. There's like this messaging out there, I don't know who started it, but probably, Facebook and Instagram started it, but just this messaging that you have to be on social media all the time, that you have to be posting every single day, you have to be constantly cranking out content. And you know, a lot of people find that really draining, but they're like,
Mm,
well, I have to do it. And the thing is, you don't have to do it. Like, I built my wedding stationery brand without using social media at all. And, you know, got it to a level where I was able to sell it and make a lot of money and open up more space to do something I was even more passionate about. So, you know, that's just like one example of something that we think that we have to do that we do not have to do. And like when you're so like entrenched in the day to day, you know, it's easy to get sucked into tasks like that.
totally. And I think it's so cool that you just said that because nobody says that. Yet it's so true because you were focused on doing the things that actually move the needle for you and your business.
Right,
Huge,
right.
huge.
And
Okay.
there's like the
Yeah.
handful of people out there who love doing social media and they get a ton of business from it. You
Yeah.
know, I think they're a bit of an anomaly. Like, I think that's a very small percentage of people. And yet we're all, you know, almost all of us are at some point in our business have been like, oh my gosh, I have to post every day.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right, and a lot of people feel that they have to do it, but they don't even necessarily enjoy doing it, and a long time ago, I asked myself, "What are the things that I truly enjoy doing in my business?" And the answer was, I like being, like, the guy. I like being the guy on camera, I like being the guy talking, like, I was a huge inspiration for me, and it still is, Tony Robbins, and
Yeah.
I just always just watch videos of him, and I'm like, "I wanna be this guy and do what he's doing," so me posting most 99% of my business does come from social media and YouTube, and that's where I find my leads, but it's because I enjoy doing it and
Yeah.
I enjoy spreading that message, but a lot of people don't enjoy doing it.
I just like to highlight something too. I mean, when you enjoy something, like you're bringing an energy to that of passion. You're bringing an energy that is going to attract what you want. Like if you're not enjoying it, you're going to dread it, you're going to feel it's going to drain you. Like it's not going to attract the things
Yes,
that you want. There's a
and
very,
people are gonna feel that.
you know, subliminal, not subliminal, but like small fine distinction, but it's actually quite a big distinction.
Well said, well said. I wanna talk about your boot camp because I know on June 15th to June 17th, you have a 3-day boot camp that you call the Magnetic Manifestation Boot Camp. And it's all about this manifestation thing that we're talking about right now, right? And I'm sure you're going to go into it, but you talk a lot about scripting
Mhm.
and specifically, like, what is scripting? Like, how do you use that for you? And how does that help you to keep aligned with your vision?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Scripting is absolutely my number one go-to manifestation tool that I use. It's just something, it's a daily ritual for me. And I know you've talked about this on the podcast before. What you do with scripting is you are writing as your future self, but you're talking about things that have already happened. You can also do it in verbal format, and we may do some of that in the boot camp. I haven't decided yet, but every day I sit down and I write as my future self, and I talk about all the great things that are happening in my life and my business, all the wins that I'm having, and it just it sets you up to just, you know, not only are you elevating your vibe in the present moment, which is going to, you know, energize you to go and do amazing things in your business, but it's also connecting you with that bigger picture. You know, it's connecting you with the higher version of you that has the answers. You know, like we you know, we think a lot about our future, but we don't necessarily think about who that future person is being. And that's really kind of the key to creating what we want, is being the person who has what we want already, and scripting really allows you to do that.
And it sounds like every single day you start your day with what your vision is and with what this future person is and who they are and who they're continuing to become. And it's essentially reminding yourself, okay, so this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it sounds like that aligns you for the rest of your day in terms of what you actually are doing physically that day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it sets me up to do the things that really excites ugh. It just it sets me up for such a better experience. I mean, not only do I have like a better now, I have a better day, I also just feel so much more pumped for the future. And that just pulls me forward and motivates me so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this boot camp is from June 15th to June 17th. It's a 3-day experience. It's magnetic manifestation. There's a link in the description, guys, to go check out this boot camp. And I guess, Julia, my question for you is, who is this boot camp for? And what are the main outcomes that we're going to take away from joining this boot camp?
So it's designed for entrepreneurs. I specifically work with mostly creatives, but any type of entrepreneur is okay. I mean, we're happy to have you no matter if you're a lawyer or a massage therapist or you're a photographer or an artist. It doesn't matter. We'd love to have you. And it's really about helping you define that vision, but also start stepping into it. You know, like in 3 days, you're going to start being, like we talked about, the importance of that beingness. You're going to start being that badass entrepreneur that you know deep down that you were meant to be. And you're going to start manifesting things so much faster. And scripting is the tool that I teach in this boot camp that is going to help you build that momentum and start making that traction a lot faster than, you just trying to do it on your own and hustle and figure it out and do all the things.
Absolutely. And I have a similar ritual every single morning that has completely transformed my life. A lot of it has to do with scripting, other gratitude exercises,
Mhm.
just a bunch of things I've learned from a lot of different people, and I found what works for me. And I just know that anyone who goes to this boot camp, whoever's listening right now, you will come away from this boot camp feeling differently and doing different things because you'll be aligned with what you want. You'll come away a different and, in a sense, a more enhanced and more effective individual. So check out the link in the description. Julia, this has been an awesome conversation. The last question I have for you is something I ask everybody at the end, and I'm really curious to see what you have to say. But the question is, what is the change or the positive difference that you want to see made in the world?
Hmm. I think I just want people to have a new level of consciousness about, I just want them to think about, like, okay, what am I really doing here? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I want people to just wake up from their daily ho hum routine of going to work, coming home, eating dinner, sitting down in front of Netflix. Like, I want them to start asking questions, because when you ask questions, you become aware. And when you become aware, you have the opportunity to make your life better, to do something more purposeful, to do something that lights you up. And I just, I want to see a ripple effect of people doing things that excite them, because I just think the world is going to be such a healthier, happier place to live.
That was beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. And I would love to see that reality achieved. And I think the work that you're doing, and I know the work that you're doing, is moving the needle even further in that direction. So I commend you for your work. I commend you for the challenges that you've overcome and the challenges that you continue to overcome. And I commend you for helping other people to do the same thing that you've been doing yourself.
Thank you. Same to
Thank you
you.
for coming on the show today. I appreciate you. And I look forward to having you on in the future to talk about next events and whatever else you work on after this.
I would love that. I would love to come back. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. What a conversation. From working for a company, a 9 to 5, from transitioning to freelancing in her business, and then to fully transitioning to her business and overcoming challenges and all these different things along the way to living her dream lifestyle, and sharing exactly what you can do starting right now to begin transitioning to your dream lifestyle. And remember, this didn't happen overnight for Julia. It started in 2014, where she made the decision that this is what she's wanted. It's been 6 to 7 years. It's taken time. And one of the number one things that I took away from this conversation is that no matter where you are right now, you can begin making this transition by deciding what it is you want your life to look like. And again, check out Julia's event. It's on June 15th to the 17th. It's a 3-day intensive experience where you'll learn about scripting and you'll learn about designing this life and making that transition. It's for creative entrepreneurs, but it's for anybody who is an entrepreneur who wants to create that dream lifestyle. So go to the link in the description, check out Julia Baldwin Taylor's event. Go to her website, look at all the awesome stuff she's posting on YouTube. She's everywhere. So check her out. Again, thank you to Julia for being here. Thank you to you for watching. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Be Better broadcast. Thanks so much. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.